A wristwatch is a miniature clock that is typically worn on the wrist with straps. Its function is to tell time. There are many types of wristwatches. Among them, you have an analog watch and a digital watch.
Analog watches are watches that are mostly made up of moving parts, such as gears. They usually show the time using 3 hands, showing hours, minutes, and seconds. Digital watches, on the other hand, have no moving parts. They are made up of tiny circuits that show us the time using screens. Smartwatches are related to digital watches as they also show time using screens. The only difference is that smartwatches have more functions than just telling the time. Some are known to make phone calls, listen to music, search the web, and also check your heart rate. Smartwatches are built more like a phone than a watch in that the inside of a smartwatch is full of chips and circuits.
Watches are no longer just a timepiece. They are an important part of our society. In the past, many aspects of society, such as religion and economy, revolved around time. In Islam, for example, certain prayers happen at a certain time in the day, and it shows how in the past society was impacted by time. Later on, watches were more connected with the economic aspects of society. Shops and markets opened up at a certain time of the day, depending on when the most amount of people would be comfortable to buy their goods.
The introduction of wristwatches would also impact the fashion industry. Heavier pocket watches were bulky and not the best for aesthetics. Nowadays, you can have watches made of various materials such as precious metals and leather. These watches can cost anything from a few $100s to tens of thousands. Watches are also a common family heirloom as they can last for hundreds of years. Some people even have multiple watches and split them up between everyday use and dress watches.
The earliest method of telling time were sundials. It was used by ancient Egypt and ancient Iraq. Later on, the first mechanical clock was invented in Europe in the 14th century. How do they work? There is a key which tightens the mainspring. As it unwinds, its energy turns gears which cause the hands to move. In 1510, Peter Heinlein created the first pocket watch, which was small enough to be worn on a person. A similar invention was the wristwatch, which was primarily worn by women. These work in a similar way to the clock.
Later on, the pendulum clock was invented, which was the most precise timekeeping device until the 1900s. It was very precise due to the pendulum. It always took the same amount of time to swing back and forth. It was connecting to a rocking lever which allows the gears in the clock to advance at a certain rate. First digital watch came out in the late 19th century. In a watch, the battery sends electricity to a quartz crystal which makes it vibrate. The rest is the same as a clock except that all functions are handled electronically. Smartwatches are the phenomenon of the 21st century. They contain circuits and Wi-Fi technology. The accessibility to internet opens a wide variety of possibilities such as message notifications, GPS navigation, and calendar synchronization.
Every new watch is like a new piece of art. It has a different story to tell. It's a very interesting thing about watches. On the one hand, you have a high precision device, and the other thing is they have to be hand finished, which is very related to arts and crafts. You have these two worlds in one watch, both the aesthetical aspect of it and the mechanical aspect of it. Here we are at Arnold & Son, in our premises in La Chaux-de-Fonds, where we manufacture all of our watches. Arnold & Son refers to John Arnold, who was one of the biggest and most important watchmaker who ever lived. He invented a lot of technical solutions still in use today. The aim of the modern company to innovate and to continue his legacy, but in a contemporary, new manner. The idea is really to continue the story more than to repeating it. First, with the design team, we designed how the watch should look like. the size it should have, the thickness. You have to have a kind of mechanical harmony. Is it good looking or not? And when we are happy with the new complications and we think the watch has something new, then we create basically the inner works which will make the aesthetic happen. The first thing you have to do is to order the right material, because we use a lot of different materials into mechanical movement, going from brass over steel up to titanium or gold, and you need a specific material for every different part of it. Once you have the raw material, you start really making the components. We have different kind of raw materials going to different workshops for depending on the part you want to make. If you want to do watchmaking on super high level, you need extremely skilled and specifically trained people. We have more than 30 different job descriptions, purely different education, and you find these educations, these training only in this region, because nowhere else in the world you need such kind of know-how.
The future of watches will involve having more advanced technology and being more user-friendly. For example, smartwatches are going to have more and more functions, such as being able to project the screen. They are also going to become more water-resistant and become lighter. Who knows? Perhaps one day you may be able to replace a phone with a smartwatch.
Later on, the pendulum clock was invented, which was the most precise timekeeping device until the 1900s. It was very precise due to the pendulum. It always took the same amount of time to swing back and forth. It was connected to a rocking lever. Oh shit.